You've probably heard of the law of 7 hearings, meaning when you hear it the 7th time, you really get it. So a part of our process is obviously and purposely redundancy, repetition. If you've read Transforming Your Church into a House of Prayer or Prayer of the Heartbeat of the Church, or if you've seen the Praying Church Resource Guide, then you've seen this model that I'm going to present to you now. 3 kinds of churches. I gained this from Cheryl Sachs in her wonderful book, The Prayer Saturated Church. The first church is the church that doesn't have an organized prayer leader, doesn't have an organized prayer ministry. They call a prayer meeting when there's a problem. Crisis praying is what they do. It's what characterizes their prayer time. You obviously don't want to be this kind of church. But probably 85 to 90% of the churches in North America fit into this category. One North American survey asked this question: Are you a crisis prayer, a casual prayer, or a committed prayer? Only 8% met the criteria of being a committed prayer. 92% were either casual about their prayer time or prayed when there was a crisis. One survey says the average Christian prays 5 to 7 minutes a day. I jokingly say that's circling the parking lot at Walmart, praying for a spot closer to the door. The average pastor, until a few years ago, prayed 15 to 17 minutes a day. That's up now to 35 minutes a day. And that's really encouraging, because it means that God is talking to us and calling us, and pastors are responding, and even Christians are responding to carving out more time for God at the beginning of their day. Here's the sad thing. We have watched an anti-prayer culture develop in our nation, and a praise preaching culture develop in our churches with little or no time for serious prayer, either in the public space of culture or in the private space of our church life. And simultaneously, what has happened is a demise of private, personal, family prayer. So we're living from Sunday to Sunday off crisis, casual praying. It simply won't sustain, won't get us the revival that we need. The second kind of church is a church with a prayer ministry. It's the kind of church that says, you have a choir, join our choir. If you love to serve, then we've got this service organization. Become a deacon or a deaconess, etc. You don't want a prayer ministry in your church. That is, you don't want a prayer ministry that sits alongside all the other ministries. You don't want that. You don't want to give people an option for prayer. Prayer isn't an option. You don't opt in. You don't opt out. So while you don't want a crisis model, you don't want this kind of casual model for prayer either. There's a major difference between a church with a prayer ministry and a church that's trying to bring prayer to the heart of everything they're doing. And so what are those differences? Well, if you have a prayer ministry, a small number is fine. But if you're trying to grow a praying church, ultimately, a small number may be fine at the beginning. You want the whole church. In a church with a prayer ministry, there's little training. No, you need ongoing training. Over here, you got a prayer band. Here, you're trying to raise up a prayer army. Over here, a few of the leaders come to the prayer meeting. They're very busy. No. Over here, they come to the meeting because they realize they have to model prayer, and without Him, we can do nothing. Here you have a single dimensional, very few opportunities for prayer. Here you're developing multiple opportunities for prayer ministry and a multidimensional prayer kind of ministry. Most churches are organized hierarchical. They're the senior pastor, associate pastor, staff, business, department leaders. It's kind of top down. You know, you've seen the flow charts. Not only are they top down, they're also departmental. We have a way of slicing up our churches. So we've got a senior adult ministry and a ladies ministry and a men's ministry and a children's ministry and a singles ministry. You may have a youth pastor and a children's pastor. You may have a senior adult pastor. You may have other such departmental staff leaders. Very few churches. Last survey I saw, less than 5% have someone committed to lead prayer ministry. Someone committed full-time to discipleship. Someone committed full-time to evangelism. Now here's the problem. A very, very real problem. You won't find youth ministry in the Bible. You won't find ladies, men's. You won't find these bifurcations. You won't find these departmental models. What we've done is gone a long way down the road to transforming the church into a kind of Christian social club. What you will find in Scripture is this: my house shall be a house of prayer for the ethnetos, for the nations. Prayer, evangelism, discipleship cannot be departments in your church. They cannot sit alongside youth, children, all the other options. This is the essence of the church. So here's what you want. You want a matrix kind of model where prayer, evangelism, and discipleship, and those people who are leading those departments that are close to the vision and mission of your church, you want those people working with your youth pastor, your children's pastor, your men's pastor, your family pastor, your singles, so that prayer, evangelism, and discipleship go through every department in your church. You want to continue to minister to people, but you really want to get people to the point where you can accomplish mission through people. You minister to people to get them healthy enough to accomplish mission through people, because the great joy of their life will be found in serving God. So you want to move from this hierarchical, departmental model to a matrix, integrated, teaming approach that brings prayer to the heart of everything you're doing. Until you have a compelling, shared vision of your church as a house of prayer that wins people to Christ and disciples the nations. So instead of having all of your departments going in different directions, fighting over calendar space for this event and that event, what you want to do is align them out of a prayer, care, share vision. Prayer, the great commitment. Pray for men everywhere, beginning with kings and those in authority, that we might live peaceable lives and that all men might be saved. This is the great commitment, the call to pray, not just for us, but for our cities, our communities, our nation, so that God will bring in a great harvest. You want the great commandment. Love God with all your heart and love your neighbor. You want the great commission. Preach the gospel. Baptize. Get them saved and disciple the nations. Three things. You got three things. Prayer, the great commitment. Care, the great commandment. You want to cultivate a congregation that cares, not just for one another, but for the neighbors next door to the church, for the city, for the unreached people groups on the face of the earth. And you want to find ways for your congregation to begin to engage the lost with the gospel of Christ, a mission field near you and a mission field far away. Every department of your church ought to be involved in prayer, care, share, in evangelism, and it begins with this thing called prayer.
Have you become a part of the Praying Church movement? For more information, visit www.projectpray.org/PLCE. Looking for more resources? Visit www.alivepublications.org. This video is produced by Alive Ministries Project Pray in connection to the Praying Church movement and the Prayer Leaders Continuing Education effort. If you would like to contact us, please address all mail to Alive Ministries, Project Pray, P.O. Box 1245, Kannapolis, North Carolina 28082, or email us at info@projectpray.org, or call toll free at 855-842-5483.